In this example video, we're going to look at review exercise 8-9. And in this example, we're going to look at how do we apply LIFO under the retail inventory method. This one is a little bit different than our other methods under the retail inventory because we actually have to calculate two cost to retail ratios. So we know that LIFO tends to have layers of inventory because under the theory, we are always selling our last or most recent items purchased first. So same information that we've provided for both cost and retail. So we are going to calculate two cost to retail ratios. One is going to be for beginning inventory, and the second one is going to be basically for everything else. So our cost to retail ratio for beginning inventory that we're going to take our beginning inventory at cost divided by our beginning inventory value at retail. So for us, again, rounding to 3 decimal places, our cost to retail ratio for beginning inventory would be 0.380. Then we have to have a cost to retail ratio for our purchases. And this is exactly how we do our cost to retail ratio for the FIFO method, but we're breaking this apart. So for us, we take the $75,000 in beginning and purchase cost divided by the $200,000 in retail value for purchases, plus those additional markups, minus those net markdowns. So rounded to 3 decimal places, we are at 0.389 for our cost to retail ratio regarding with the purchases that we have. So something very important to keep in mind when you're using the LIFO method is if the ending inventory at retail is greater than your beginning inventory value at retail, we are going to be using the beginning inventory value at cost plus the difference will be multiplied by the purchases cost to retail ratio. Again, we're using LIFO. So under LIFO, we assume that the last items in are the first out. Therefore, if the ending inventory is greater than what we began with, our beginning inventory, that means that we still have all of our beginning inventory and some of our purchases from that period. Because again, LIFO, we would assume we would eat through any of the purchases that we made in the current period before we ever got back to that beginning inventory. So if our ending inventory value at retail is greater than our beginning inventory value at retail, that means we're going to be looking at both of those cost to retail ratios. So when we're looking at it, our ending inventory at retail is at 107,000. Our beginning inventory at retail is 92,000. So there is an increase. The difference between the two is 15,000, meaning that we have all of our beginning inventory plus $15,000 of the purchases that we made during the period still remaining in our ending inventory. So we think about our ending inventory at cost. Well, if we have all $92,000 of our beginning inventory, and we know that retail value right here is $92,000, and it's also that $35,000 cost value. We know that value already. We actually don't even need to apply that cost to retail ratio because we didn't eat into any of that 92,000 of that retail value or that 35,000 of that cost value. So that means all $35,000 of our beginning inventory at cost still remains. And then we have to apply that purchases cost to retail ratio. So again, the difference between what we ended with and what we started with was $15,000. Our cost to retail ratio for our purchases was at 0.389. That means the cost value of our purchases that still remain is $5,835. So we add those two components together, the $35,000 of our beginning inventory plus the $5,835 of what we have left of our purchases gets us to our ending inventory at cost of $40,835. Again, I put a little note here. You don't have to use the cost of retail ratio for beginning inventory since we still own it all. If, however, the ending inventory at retail is less than the beginning inventory at retail, we would only have to apply the beginning cost to retail ratio. That is because it would imply that we sold all of the purchases that we made during the current year And we actually sold some of that beginning inventory so that all we have left is a portion of that beginning inventory. So then we'd only be using that cost to retail ratio for beginning inventory.